Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to another recording session of Hearthstone. Although it's probably not going to be a very big recording session. They're still trying to get us to win the special holiday card back now. It seems like we're going to get ads now at the bottom every time we launch the game from now on. I already played the Tavern Brawl, and because of that, I've already got that card back. So, I imagine this is only going to take one recording. Let's see. Paladin. Let's play one game as Paladin, and then one game as either Druid or Rogue, and I guess we'll play Druid. And then we'll go with Warrior and Paladin and Warrior. That should work fine. So Paladin is our Murloc deck that we just rebuilt. We're back to regular recording here. We're not doing any more deck rebuilds for hopefully a good amount of time. Those are kind of long. How could I fix it? Not really. Next expansion is almost certainly going to be new cards, so there will be new cards to actually play. So all of that, that probably means next deck rebuilding series will even be longer, not shorter. Maybe it will be the same length and less repetitive if I can figure out a way to do that. Okay, so, wow, they really want to do this. So I'm going to keep a count of the number of Murlocs that died. I'm going to take this, and then end the turn. Because I don't want to put totems in here to fill the field with anything but a Murloc. This is almost all Murlocs in this card. In this deck. If I had a couple more. Really, I have 2 of these. That is ridiculous. So if I kill 7 and then summon 7 again, does it work that way? That's an interesting thought. If I kill 7, he wipes out all 7 again, then I could play 7 again. If I kill 7 and 1 dies, only 1 would come back up. It's kind of impossible to tell. Interesting. Eat that. Attack here, attack here. So that has been 3 Murlocs down. I shouldn't have this card in my deck. It's a ridiculous card to have. So what have I been doing? I've watched this series called Childhood's End on Sci-Fi. Sci-Fi, just to catch you up, my relationship with Sci-Fi as it is for, I assume, a lot of people. They are completely miserable about starting shows and then canceling shows and not giving them a fair shake. They have for the most recent few years given up on even doing any shows at all, and instead are doing just monster movie garbage like Sharknado is a prime example of that. So they're coming around, trying to get back to the way they used to be a long time ago. You're talking 10, maybe 15 years ago, at this rate.
I have too many minions.
Darn it. Oops. Too many minions on the field.
Job's done.
So I wasted the coin. Should have paid better attention. So they're gonna come out with a new series called Magicians. I want to kind of see that. I probably won't end up following any of them. I tried to watch The Expanse, and it was pretty much, I couldn't even bother to care about it. So I'm hoping Flame Strike comes about. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and equip a weapon and then
for justice
attack. But they had this mini-series based on a best-selling novel. Now, after watching this series, it has only reaffirmed what I assumed. Best-selling novels are usually probably written terrible. If people like it in general, you have to remember that in general people don't read books. So, and this is I'm only judging the novel based on the movie made after it. So maybe the novel's way better. But spoilers are coming now for Childhood Sin. It starts with aliens coming down to Earth. They effectively take over control of everything. They start giving orders to the entire human race as to how to improve and turn Earth into a utopia. Now, in this first section, you're introduced to
for justice.
One character who runs a major newspaper publishing corporation thing, and he doesn't trust them. And you're introduced to one guy who the aliens pick to be their spokesman, the ambassador, and you're introduced to a boy named Milo who doesn't really have much of a story in it at all. Then there are some secondary characters too. I'm not even sure, but I believe that
for justice.
The woman, there's a girl that later on becomes a woman that's important in the second of 3 parts of this miniseries. That you see her at the very beginning, and then there's this other girl who we see a little bit longer, who is part of a junior Faith initiative and tries to keep Faith going, because Faith immediately starts to become questioned and fall apart. All Faiths apparently, as soon as the aliens show up. And the little boy Milo, as soon as the aliens showed up, his scientific mind, which I believe was already there, seems to have only increased, whereas later on in the story it becomes pretty obvious everybody else's scientific desire for inquiry pretty much stops, which is kind of ridiculous because later on in the series they specifically say that they built this orbital ship.
But of course. Oh,
for justice.
So here we are here. We've got 6 of the 7th thing here. We can play this card. I want to play it once, and then I'm probably going to end up changing my deck again as soon as I play it, because this is really an unrealistic playthrough.
Take heart, young one. The Earth Mother is near.
Here we go. It didn't play any music or anything.
For justice.
Well played.
So, yeah, I do not believe it. We've got a whole new Hearthstone deck tracker thing. It's popping up a little pop-up. Let's see. Win versus mage. Yeah, that's right. So, oh, and it just pops. It goes away after 4 seconds. Interesting. 4 seconds is kind of long, but whatever. Let's go ahead now and play as the druid. So, in the first part of Childhood's End, they give out some really, really ridiculous stuff. The aliens specifically say they cannot, that humans can't do war. If they try to do any kind of warlike actions or violent actions, they're gonna stop it. At a certain point, a drug dealer shoots Milo and kills him, and the aliens are capable of killing the drug dealer and healing Milo. And oh, by the way, Milo was in a wheelchair because he couldn't walk, and when they healed him from being shot, they also healed him from needing the wheelchair anymore. So, okay, good for that. Because there's no more war, it's never really shown whether the aliens come up with these ideas or the ambassador they have comes up with these ideas. He says they're gonna take all the US Navy, they're gonna refrigerate all the food, refrigerate all of them, take all the extra food that's in the United States and ship it to the west coast of Africa. Which, alright, so that kind of maybe solves the problem of hunger in the west coast of Africa. It doesn't really solve starvation everywhere. It could be the beginnings of showing ways to fix that, but not that much. And there's still a ton of shipping and moving you would have to do to get all the extra food, which I'm not sure there really is that much extra food to feed all of Africa. Get it all from North America to all over Africa. It's just not. It's a very simplistic way of thinking. It's not realistic. Before they did this, the aliens themselves took down like the Gaza Wall, and as soon as the Gaza Walls went down, everybody's super happy about it, which, to my understanding of the situation there, that would be not the truth at all. There is an inherent learned distrust and hatred for the other side as far as the Israeli-Palestine conflict, and if the wall came down, you're going to have a lot of rock throwing and gunfire. It's not going to just be, it's not just that the government in that area wants the wall up. Everybody sort of wants the wall up. And so, I mean, the only kind of thing I think you could even argue, maybe, is that perhaps
Another night on the prowl.
there is something going on where they're mentally changing. The aliens are mentally changing humans, just getting down to the core of the core of their mentality and changing it. And then the next solution is that the aliens either suck up or seal off all the oil wells from Saudi Arabia, which, first of all, I don't think Saudi Arabia is the only source of oil in that area. And then they tell them, well, now that those pipelines are all gone, which, by the way, these pipelines, the way they were drawn, seem to cover all of Africa. I don't think Saudi Arabia has oil pipelines going all over Africa. Maybe there are pipelines that each country controls and works together with, but that's hardly the way they emphasized it there. I don't think I'm gonna win this one. And they're telling them now we're gonna take desalinated water, which first of all we don't have a process to desalinate water that is efficient or effective energy-wise, as far as I know. So maybe the aliens told them how to desalinate water real easy, and then they're gonna pump that all into Africa and turn that desert into some kind of
snakes.
Some kind of like, what would you call it?
For the wild.
Garden, just agricultural,
Well played.
Greenland type thing, just full of plants and species that may never have been there or haven't been there in hundreds of thousands of years. Definitely shifting the ecology of Africa to grow more food. And so what's really strange about this, that all this works, apparently, the movie skips ahead like 14 years, and in 14 years it skips ahead several times. It skips ahead like 6 months at one point, it skips ahead 14 or 15 years, it skips ahead I believe 80 years at the end. So it's almost 100 years to the dot later. By the time you get to the very end, we'll play as Rogue of this story. But the first skip is 14 years, and all of their effort works. A whole utopia comes. They say child rate is booming, which honestly is really weird because also people are moving out of like the urban areas. So where everybody is going, it doesn't make any sense. It's like they made farms to make more food to feed everybody. Because they could feed everybody, they had more kids, so they'd have to make more farms to feed everybody. Yet there's this whole population increase in no way caused more urbanification, no more high tower apartments needed to be built. In fact, everybody just left them. So it's just this all weird fantasy that this movie says. It's like, these things will happen because I say they will happen. And it's like, no, there's no logic into it. Maybe in the book, everything gets laid out really nicely and there's a nice scientific explanation on how all the things they say are going to happen, could happen, but in the movie, no, it doesn't. And I seriously doubt in the book it doesn't either, because it seems very much like the book is written that way. Okay, so in the first section, I'm just gonna tell you the whole movie and see if we can beat this whole thing. By the way, this movie was a huge waste of time. So it was 6 hours about, and that 6 hours was a huge waste of time. But there was something that happened at the first movie that tricked me into wanting to watch the rest of the movie.
Here we go.
Cast a spell, do 1 damage to all minions.
Here we go.
I'll go ahead and just kill this guy. So the guy who runs the newspaper publishing things is trying to get rid of the aliens. He's saying we don't want them around. None of that. Go away, go home, get off our land, type stuff. And eventually he decides to try to start a revolution, and the aliens have like secret cameras where they can see everything going on, and so they let the situation get almost out of hand just to show how this guy is completely willing to destroy all the good things that the aliens gave to them, as far as he was gonna repollute the planet and just completely work against every single thing, until the aliens just got frustrated enough and left, which is, I mean, it's not even really a realistic thing. Oh, I guess I should also mention that they cured almost every disease, except for their ambassador gets sick later. They cured every other disease on the planet, and people still die, but it's not like apparently from sickness. So I guess people just die of old age. And he is trying really hard to make sure I don't have anything.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Job done.
So that's mostly the first movie. Is you're introduced to the ambassador, you're introduced to Milo, you're introduced to the girl that's the religious organization, you're introduced and gotten rid of the guy who's in charge of all media and was skeptical and eventually started the resistance. And then for a brief second they show you a girl that I believe was supposed to be the girl that you really don't start interacting with until the very end of the
Here we go.
first third of the movie. And so this whole time in the first half, in the first third of the series, the aliens refuse to show themselves. They hide behind a mirror when they talk to the ambassador, and they eventually say we will show ourselves in 15 years. So it skips the 15 years into the future.
Want a deal?
So
Here we go.
at the very end of the first third, you're at the big scene where the aliens finally reveal themselves, and so the aliens fly down on their ship. They connect to a landing elevator type thing, and you see this bright light, and they walk out of the bright light. He says they let a couple of child greeters come with him just so they can get the iconography as accurate as possible.
How many
And
fingers
what
do you
walks
see?
out? A complete devil is what the alien looks like. He looks exactly like the devil. 100% long forked tail, black wings, red skin, horns, everything. undeniably, he doesn't look a little bit like the devil. He looks completely like the devil. And
Here we go.
there's no great explanation placed as to why he looks like the devil. Now this is the great twist. This is what got me in the series. I thought, alright, so this alien is either actually a devil or is in some other way, for some other reason, appears like that. Perhaps there is a scenario that perhaps it's a scenario that his appearance is dictated by what people think, or he is genetically engineered himself to always look intimidating, so they make him look like the most universal intimidating thing. Maybe he's really just a hallucination. Maybe this is all a dream. Maybe it's all happening in some kind of virtual reality, because if this was a virtual reality or video game, that would totally make sense. So a lot of thoughts go through my mind, and I figured it would just be a red herring. And it actually is a red herring. It really doesn't get explained much. But unfortunately, the second section of the movie, which I kind of can just go through it real fast of Childhood's End, is very heavily on the religious elements. There really wasn't that much. There was some religious elements, and when you go back and if you waste your time and go back and watch the first third a second time, there is even some indications in the dialogue that this is all like a religious book, and they go very heavy in that in the second third, which it doesn't really matter.
Job's done.
But the whole second third of it is just about religion. It's 100% about religion. Pretty much. There is the aliens start working with this new guy who's like the last guy in charge of the last scientific organization, and they're shipping
Job's
up
done.
species to the aliens planet for a zoo. Basically, that's what they say they're doing. And I assume that is true. So, but he works with this guy, and he builds this round looking Ouija board. So it's not a traditional square Ouija board. It's a circle with a triangle in the middle that rolls on a bunch of marbles and points to different letters on the edges. However, and there's like spikes kind of holding it up, which is kind of thing. So once you see this Ouija board, I'm starting to think that the movie's going to be very boring. I'm starting to think that I've just been tricked into reading something like Left Behind. It's going to just be this very heavily religious thematic fictionalization that, and I'm sure people could take it that way. I mean, in the end, these aliens that look like devils do, in at least one fashion, end up ruining humankind. Let's see, how do I want to do this? Deal 3 damage to a minion or 1 damage and draw a card?
what to do.
Just summon that. And so you have the Ouija board, you have the little girl that gets barely shown. She's now a woman and she's pregnant. That will be a big reveal at the end of the second section. Let's see. What else really goes on in the second section? Not really a lot. It's all kind of focused around the woman. She has a son, so she's pregnant for the second time. And the son starts like having visions and saying that somebody's taking him somewhere. Deal 3 damage to a minion.
Running the program.
So the son's acting weird. The kids are developing psychic abilities, and and other magical abilities, which is some kind of accelerated evolution. I assume what happened is that when the aliens released the stuff that
snakes
that cured every disease, it also started something down the path of a forced evolution of humankind. So for the past 14 years, all children have been slowly being worked upon, but it seems like it couldn't work on the adults.
Made to fit.
And so the son is having psychic visions and doing crazy things. They take him to the counselor. The counselor turns out to be the little girl of the religious thing. It's the entire second third is mostly focused around that. It seems very much like the book at one point is going to straight up say that the aliens hate or are actively fighting against her religious beliefs, which I don't think in a pure way they really were. I think their only real interest, as far as it was shown to me, was in
another night on the prowl.
Just stopping people from using religions to cause trouble. Let's see.
For the wilds.
Killed this guy. Killed this guy. Kill this guy or hit this guy. Hit this guy. But at one point, her cross that this lady is wearing, it pulls back and starts choking her, and it bends all around her. So there seems to be some indication of that. But like again, the whole second section is just focused on more and more pushing you down this thought that was revealed at the end of the first one, that oh yes, he really is the devil, yes, this really is just some ploy. At this point, I would almost completely say it feels like the story is trying to send a message that if aliens do occur, this is like a perhaps Christian pre-warning. If aliens do show up, it's really going to be the devil, and he will just be here to screw with us.
The supreme archaeologist.
So at the very end, the big reveal is that the lady who's pregnant with the second time, the aliens take her to the Ouija board. She puts her hand on the Ouija board, and it is the baby that is communicating to he is communicating with through the Ouija board. And the Ouija board, as soon as she puts her hand on it, by the way, turns all the letters from being English into the letters of the aliens, which are constellations based on the perspective of humans, which makes no sense at all. Why the aliens' language would be constellations from that would only be in that form from the perspective of Earth. Constellations do not stay the same any other place. They look completely different when you move to a different planet.
Bathe in flames.
Let's see.
Snakes. It has to be snakes.
I've lost. I was close there.
Job's done.
So as soon as she puts her hand on it, it changes to the alien language. The baby starts signing and kind of drawing more than actually. I don't know if he was actually drawing the shapes or if it was actually pointing to letters and forming sentences that way. It kind of seemed more like the baby through the mother was just drawing the shapes, and as he's drawing the shapes, this big pillar of lightning is forming outside, and the letters are forming there. Going assumedly to the homeworld of the aliens. And that's actually exactly where it did go. And that's the pretty much end of that. Is the baby gets born, you see the baby's eyes, they're green. That never gets played off as anything. Assumedly that is either the first evolution of that, or that baby in specifically was genetically engineered to be different by the aliens. So let's skip to the third part. Third part, the ambassador for the aliens has some weird like disease. It turns out that the alien guy made the ambassador sterile because he didn't want him to have kids that would turn around and be psychic, because he said it would be harder for them in the future because he knows what's going to happen. The scientist guy eventually sneaks onto one of the ships that's taking the animals to the zoo, and uses that to get to their homeworld. But because their homeworld's so far away, it's 40 years to get to the homeworld. What else happens? I think the religious girl kills herself. Yeah, she does kill herself. She sees like a vision that tricks her to jumping to her death. And maybe that was the aliens, maybe it wasn't. We do know that the aliens have the ability to make people from your past appear. So maybe the aliens did kill the religious girl but before that, the religious girl did shoot the alien and nearly kill him. So the whole story has this real underlying theory that if some species of alien that looked like the devil, or if some devil came to you and gave all of Earth everything they wanted, almost everybody would completely side with them, and only the few, like 100 out of 7 billion plus people, would even go against them, which is ridiculous. Which more and more I think about it, more and more this book seems like just some ridiculous line of thinking that somebody had.
Feed the fish, blasphemer. Blood and plunder.
So the ambassador is sick, and
Here we go.
they had a cure for the ambassador's sickness, but he had to use the cure to save the devil because he got shot by the religious person. The mother, the baby, they skipped 4 years in the future, so the baby now is a 4-year-old. So they skipped 15 years in the future, they skipped 4 years in the future, at some point they skipped 6 months in the future. So it's almost completely going to be 20 years in the future right now.
Blood and plunder.
Take that, and
Here we
that.
go.
What else? There was a romance between Milo and this Japanese girl that really never got anywhere. There was a lot of side stories that I'm sure in the book probably felt more useful. There was a whole side story about how every time the ambassador went to the alien ship, they made the alien ship look like a hotel room that the ambassador spent 4 days with his first wife who died. And so he's having this kind of emotional affair with his first wife and ignoring his second wife. Oh, I've got to move this thing. I'm gonna change this setting. I know you're not seeing any of this, but it's getting in my way as far as actually trying to click buttons. So now let's play as the warrior and then the paladin. So a bunch of side stories. Eventually, what happens in the third? There's not really a lot that happens in the third, and completely the thing that should have happened that didn't happen was there's no real explanations given in the third part of the series. I guess I'll kind of wrap up here as I'm talking about this dumb movie that nobody should really watch. But they sold it so much. They totally tricked me and probably a lot of people into watching this dumb miniseries. So Milo gets to the alien planet. On the alien planet is a big column of electricity, like the one we'd seen before. The big column of electricity, they fly near it and Milo can get in it, and it is this overmind is what the aliens call it. Milo immediately assumes that means God, so the devil aliens are working for God apparently, and here's the only real solution that makes any sense whatsoever. Is the thought is that somewhere this overmind has existed for over 100,000 years, they said, and it has probably been leaking little bits of itself, of the universe, into the minds of humans. So we drew devils and had them in our religions, or particularly only one religion really has devils that look like this, as far as I know. but we drew them and we added them because psychically, even 100,000 years ago, we were getting images of them. And their home planet looks pretty much what you might think hell looks like. It's lava and fiery and smoky and dark, and so that kind of makes sense. And the pile of energy kind of, I'm sure some people could see that as being a godlike imagery too. So that all kind of makes sense, although none of that really gets explained.
No problem.
Job's done.
Well, if this guy kills this guy, then it would kill this guy. That's not probably a great move. So Milo sees them, he gets on their planet, and then he immediately after that thinks of his girlfriend, the Japanese girl, and says, I want to go back. Turn around, take me back. Just like immediately. It's ridiculous. Let's see. Let's go ahead and attack the base. So he spent 40 years getting to the alien planet. He spent 40 years getting back. He no real reason they've even done any of that. So what happened in the meantime between those 80 years, which equals the 200 years of this whole story, pretty much. The little girl that was born in the second thing, she develops more and more psychic powers. All the other kids are talking to her and following her and looking to her to take the lead. Eventually the aliens get on all the TVs and say, sorry, we've given you utopia, but now the time of humans is over. There will be no more children born after today, and all the children now have to leave. And then all the children just start flying towards the ceiling, and they go to where the original pillar of electricity was, and in the middle of that is Jennifer standing, and she starts a new pile of energy, and it never really gets explained whether Jennifer sucks the life out of all the kids and such, and sends them up in kind of a data transmission back to the home world, or if it is in fact something slightly different from that. But Jennifer, for the entire time, she's still there 200 years, 80 years later. She is still sucking up energy from the planet. She's taking all of it. She's collapsing the entire Earth there. And you see skeletons of of adult humans. You don't really see skeletons of the children, but assumedly they ascended, is the thought. But for all you know, this is all just one big scam that sucks the life force out of the kids, or uses them and consumes them more than actually leaves them as individual consciousness, which it probably doesn't leave them as individual consciousness. So it's kind of like a singularity, but a religious singularity, and none of it gets really explained, and eventually Jennifer sucks the entire planet and all of Earth gets crushed, and Milo tells the aliens to save at least one part of humanity, and so they take a song from his mind and start playing it, and then they decide to leave it where Earth was in case anybody else passes by, and that's the only thing that's left of Earth. And now, overall, this feels like the aliens probably thought they were doing right, and they were under orders from the overmind godlike creature that they've done this to many species, And one of the things that they do is they stop other species from flying around and getting interstellar space travel once the Overmind selects them. So humans could have probably continued their own life, but instead this Overmind had its own plans, and maybe it was good. Maybe they really did evolve the kids. Maybe it wasn't. It's hard to tell without it being explicitly laid out. You have to just kind of guess at it yourself. So the whole thing sucked, though. Total waste of time. Total disappointment. Nothing got explained. There's no real reason for this. It seems like this really heavy religious thought that I thought they were just going to throw that in as a red herring. And that excited me. Because I love religious fiction. But I don't like this. Whatever I would call this. This is religious fantasy, I would say. Feels very much like a pre-warning if aliens show up tomorrow and a lot of people believe the childhood's end. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people said, oh yeah, that's just the devil. I mean, that probably is going to happen anyway, so. Or people are going to be paranoid that they're going to do something bad, and in the end, the movie still leaves it like the aliens are doing something bad, which is kind of what I thought was going to be the opposite. I mean, how many stories, almost every single alien story, except for E.T., has the aliens coming down and doing something bad just because they're aliens. I mean, we need more stories where they don't do that, really. Anyways, we've been going 51 minutes, so we'll do another recording here, and I won't talk about Childhood's End. I will talk about Into the Badlands next time, which I'm gonna kind of spoil, but I don't know the full ending on that because it's still airing, and it's a TV series. But anywho, as always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment if you want to, and watch every second of my videos. All of that helps me out. If you want to support me, you can click on my name, Rydo. On the right will be a blue button that says support this channel. Click it, make a donation. And if you want a friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Let me know in the comments if you got something different from Childhood's in the book or the TV series. I really didn't enjoy any of it. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.